Welcome to another episode of Reptile Fight Club. I'm Justin Julander, and here with me, Mr. Chuck Poland. What is up?
Hey, dude. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Nice.
A little tired, but I woke up at like
Are you?
4 this morning. I couldn't get back to sleep, so went and fed the, hung out with the geckos.
You don't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
I'm not like you, man. I'm not like you.
You should try it.
I know.
You should try
We did
it.
for a little while there when my wife she worked a different job and she was getting up early, so that was kind of nice.
It's fucking horrible, isn't it?
Well, no, it's great. You get in.
No, it's horrible.
I liked it. I don't know. I'm
horrible.
a morning guy, I guess, but.
Are you?
Yeah, to some extent.
I mean, I guess I've seen you out of the sleeping bag nice and early, like, come on, let's go. Yeah.
Checking out the
That's
sunrise.
fair. You are a morning guy.
It's good stuff.
You don't even drink coffee, so.
Got the
like
sweet lady DDP.
You're a weirdo. You're a weirdo morning guy now.
Yeah, for sure. I just get high off nature, man. Just see that
That's
sunrise.
That's
just
it.
gets me going.
That's it. There you go.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Yeah. So we've got a couple returnees today. Mr. Phil Wolf and Mr. Billy Hunt.
Hello.
A couple Floridians.
What's going on?
What is up?
East Coast, West Coast, bro.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
There we go.
Nice.
But the East Coasters are going to be fighting amongst themselves, so we'll just try to keep it civil. Keep it civil. So what's going on in the world of herpetoculture? You guys got anything cool going on?
Billy's got a lot going on.
I got a pretty cool one this
Oh
morning.
yeah, you got a new snake, did you?
Yeah. Yeah. So excited about that
A
one.
little bit of a behemoth there. Big old coastal girl.
Easily my biggest snake now.
Wow.
Easily. Yeah. I might need to easily. Yeah.
You were not ready.
The,
were you ready for that? Were you ready for the?
I was. Yeah. I cracked the bag open and I just saw the head and I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
He's feeding this thing cats or something.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't been feeding her much at all, so hopefully she'll eat.
It was on the Owen McIntyre dietary
Yeah.
intake program.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess you kind of forget sometimes how big they've gotten, because I went to pull her out. I'm like, oh no, I hope I have a box big enough for this girl. She filled it up.
It's very common. It's very common for Billy to call me on my way to work in the morning because he's getting off shift. But when I pick up the phone, I go, "Good morning, Billy. What's up?" And he goes, "It's gigantic." And I knew it had to be something unique. And he's like, "It's the biggest carpet in the collection. It's gigantic."
Yeah, I don't tend to get my stuff that big, like I kind of keep it a little smaller, but at least these days, maybe that's from a bygone era when I used to feed them up heavy, but
Oh, she looks good. It's just she has that big, beefy Morelia head that I thought I had in my collection. Then I saw this one. I was like, oh man, I need to start feeding mine a little more.
yeah.
Is it how old is she?
She's getting a little. I'm trying to think when I got her. I don't remember that well, but it's probably on her tag. I think that one. Did that one come from Nick? I can't remember which one I sent to you. I've got two, and just kept the one in the better cage. So
I feel like at one point in time, didn't all the caramels come from Nick?
Yeah, I mean through Paul, right? Through
14,
yeah.
2014,
right.
The year of the caramel.
Either directly or indirectly.
Yeah, I was kind of late to the game, so it was probably 2015, 2016 or something. Can't remember.
Okay.
I think I picked. I got an albino from him when I went up to visit. I can't remember when I picked up a caramel, but I don't know. It's all a blur. Too many good
Read
snakes.
the tag.
Yeah, exactly. I have to write it down.
Got it.
I can't remember what I did yesterday, Well, yeah, I think my inlands are starting to feed really well, so that's exciting. They pretty much all of them have been pretty hassle-free. Just threw in a mouse and they took it, so that's been helpful. I think I have 3 or 4 standouts that have not taken voluntarily yet, so they got a little assist feed. But yeah, still working on getting the blackheads feed. That's always a fun little challenge, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to pick Jason Hood's brain or something. You're in with him, right?
Yeah. Oh,
find
yeah,
out what I
he's the
need to
one.
do.
He's the one to ask.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
He's the blackhead guy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I guess we'll be hanging out with Jordan in the spring, so pick his brain a little more.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
So cool. Geckos are doing good. They're growing. The little wheeler eye, so that's been fun. Need to
That's
send
awesome.
one over to Phil. Make him the
You got to
wolf
send me
of Wheeler
pictures. I
Eye.
got to see those little guys.
Yeah,
right.
They're cool. They're cool.
I got one Cinctus egg from this entire season, one, and I've been cooking it slow. It's only at like 80 degrees because the incubator's all messed up, but it's at 52 days, and I'm like, come on, just keep going, just keep going.
Yep, I know the feeling. Yeah, I had I think 6 or 8 eggs, and I have 4 babies, so I had a couple eggs just kind of go south, and I don't know why. It's like one hatches and one doesn't. So go figure, I guess.
Are they kind of sensitive? The eggs are.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're too bad. So I don't know. I was talking with my Australian buddy and Steve Crawford. You guys hear the Aussie Wildlife Show? He's one of the hosts on that. He's a really cool guy. He's got amazing collection. I think he has all the Aussie pythons, like all of them.
Nice.
He lives in
Like all of them.
He lives in Australia, but yeah, he's got Owen Pellies and he's got all of them. So he was. We were talking incubation, trying to figure out how to improve the blackhead incubation, and he incubates all his eggs on 30% water to perlite by weight. So I've always done kind of 1-to-1 or 0.9 to 1 kind of thing for water to perlite, but he does 0.3 to 1. So thought that was interesting.
I feel like perlite dries out so much faster.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I guess I should say it's vermiculite. I use a vermiculite perlite mixture.
I use
But
vermiculite.
he does vermiculite. I'm pretty sure it's just vermiculite, but yeah, 30% water. So
I like the fine vermiculite.
do you? I like the
That's the
coarse
way to
stuff.
go.
Coarse stuff.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah, I seem to. I don't know.
We ought to
just
fight
had
about
good
that
luck with it.
someday. Is coarse or
We could.
fine
Like, you can-
vermiculite better?
You can wring out fine vermiculite. I feel better than the
Yeah.
coarse stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's a little more tactile, if that makes any sense.
And I was like, 30%, man. I live in a really dry place. And he's like, I live in the driest place in the driest continent on earth. Don't tell me dry, Mr. Dry. Yeah. So he put me in my place
That's
pretty
cool.
quick. He's a funny guy.
Touche.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
excited to go herp
Touche.
with that guy. But yeah. So good times. But yeah, I don't know. I'll see if making some changes can help improve the success rate. But yeah,
Oh my gosh.
didn't even say the
Oh,
word.
Yeah. I didn't say anything. I did not say peak hall. Oh,
didn't work.
It didn't work. It didn't work.
That's so.
That was
funny.
a
All I have to do is say his name, and
Yeah.
she goes bananas.
that peak call episode was crazy, man. I imagine that was even crazier
Yeah.
being in the room there.
Yeah, I can't imagine what Justin had to go through with that one, especially like after the
Yeah.
show. Oh, geez.
Did he crash at your house? He said he was threatening at the end of the show that he was going to come over.
No,
coming
no.
to
And
your
I was
house.
expecting. Yeah, I was expecting to get that phone call
Yeah.
from somebody, and I didn't. And like, there was a sigh of relief, but at the same time, I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all
right.
that threatening and no show. Yeah. Well, it sounded like you guys had fun in Daytona. That looked like a
Oh,
good
yeah.
show. It would have been.
Always.
Yeah. Is that kind of the local show for you guys, or do you got to travel a bit to get there?
It's fairly
about-
local for me.
Yeah, it's about 4 hours for me.
Okay, not too bad. A little bit.
2.5.
Okay. Yeah, that's about what my local
It's
shows
far
are.
enough that we
Couple
make a
hours.
weekend of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's cool. Pretty well attended. Lots of people selling stuff, or
It was slower sales wise. That was for everybody. I mean, we got all the legislation and stuff too. I think that kind of played a part in it.
yeah.
Because I noticed in past years you'll see people walking around with like 20 deli cups looking for the next deal, and I didn't see that at all this year. People are a lot more frugal and stuff, but there were a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Was Fish and Wildlife there walking around, or did you see him?
They're always there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Jason got inspected. I didn't get inspected, but they just randomly go and hey, do you got all your stuff? Is everything on the up and up? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you had to get a permit to bring stuff in from out of state, huh? Is that how it worked?
Yes.
Man, that would be
Yeah.
nuts.
So it's a free permit, but like I almost didn't get mine because I did what they said on the site to do. They're like, oh, when you do your class 3, you can just do a handwritten note, requesting it, and you can get the year. It's a year long with that. It's at no cost. Well, I did that in March, and July comes around, and I'm like, hey, where's my import number? And I probably had to call back and forth 4 or 5 times.
Bureaucracy.
They're making things difficult, but I was able to get it.
So what is so I guess I'm kind of like, so it's free. You just have to have a permit to import stuff. What is the?
It's data collection is all it is. They're trying to figure out how much of all the different species are here. So like when I go to Tinley in a couple weeks, whatever I don't sell and was already in the state, but I took out of the state and brought back in, I have 72 hours to submit that to the state, and then they'll put that, those numbers with all the other numbers.
Okay.
So we even have to go that far. So anything, no matter what, that comes into the state.
Yeah. So they're just trying to get inflow, outflow, total population, and total species diversity list. And then, not that they would be saving anybody's personal information to get a list of who's,
No. Why would they do that?
Well, I mean, they already have all that.
Man.
They're just at the very basic, bare bones to it. It's just data collection for them to do God knows what in the future.
Could it
whatever they want?
I'm getting from
Could it be? Could it?
That's what they're doing.
Could it be for good, or is it just malintent? I mean, could they be saying, hey, this is a big business, all these people are doing all this business with reptiles, we don't want to mess with this too much, or are they just like using it to try to take away
when I say we, it's like the state, the hobby here in the state. That was the first thing we hit them with, was the economic impact that the state has on by the hobby, and they pretty much saw it and just kept doing all the the laws and all that.
Care at all.
There's a few lawsuits and stuff, and I'm sure that doesn't make them happy because we've won a couple of them, and it's
where you got to hit them in the pocket.
Just kind of seeing how it goes. I'm nervous because they have carpet pythons in the crosshairs. So
that sucks.
We'll see how that goes, but I'm a lot more optimistic than Phil. Phil's like, you could just see by his expressions.
Like, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice.
Ain't gonna
fool
fool
me
me
3
again.
times, 5 times, 10 times. Now I'm just letting myself be fooled.
So what do you think if they outlawed carpets? Does that mean you're finding a new state to live in, or you just give up your carpets?
I wish I had that option, but I'm pretty rooted here in real life, in the reptile life and real life. So I have an idea of what I'll do, but it's also not worth, if they outlaw it and it's, it could make me a felon, it's not worth that, life-wise. For sure. But
there's no sense in losing sleep until you have something to lose sleep over,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, like I'm still bringing stuff in, so there's still that. So.
Yeah, and it's such a bummer because you just don't know like where the regulatory head of them is at. Like, I mean, they're doing all this stuff, and like, what's their end intent? Like, is it to see how far it goes, or is it just to kind of have the power as need to do as need be?
The head guy has already been on record saying that they want to, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but this was the gist of what he said, was that they want to ban anything that can live in the wild in the state of Florida. And that basically means anything that can live in the Keys, so basically everything can live in the Keys.
Yeah, that's like that's a ridiculous. I mean, there's so much shit that already lives in the Keys, and then you can't get that back.
I know,
so
aren't
it's
the Keys pretty much like ruined anyway? Like, is anything native there?
I mean, I get it. I get what they're saying. Like, we don't want more, but like, you're not. I mean, what are they doing to put the genie back in the bottle? Nothing. So, like, okay.
Well, I've always looked at it as it's an easy win for them, because the general population isn't really big on what we do, as a hobby. And we're such a minority anyway that no matter what, it'll probably be difficult for us to get the voice that, can overtake the PETAs and the humane societies and those, people that are in their ears right now with all the money behind them.
Yeah.
So that's why, like Phil said, you can only wait and see what's going to happen and, hope for the best.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you're fighting agencies, that regulatory muscle, if they want to push it, you're not going to win against it. So it's like, it's just.
Well, one of the lawsuits is going against their state constitutional right to actually pass these laws, since they're appointed officials, not elected officials, and that's kind of causing some hoopla right now. And of course, they don't like that. You can't blame them.
Nah.
They're still at the end of the day doing their job. And they're doing what they think is right. And, we don't.
No, I think that's the kind of unfortunate part of it is like nobody's really wrong here, right? They see it from their side and they are doing what they're doing, and we see it from our side and we feel like that they're overreaching. So I know, Phil, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. Yeah, and there's definitely money involved, and it is a complex, nuanced topic, but. I don't think that the people on the other side of this, have malice hearts and are just like, we're going to get those dirty bastards, we'll show them. I think they really feel like they're trying to do something that's going to help, wildlife in the state, which I don't know how they get there from that, but.
I believe the direct quote from one of the state representatives was, "Ban them all. They're destroying my dock. I'm sick of paying for it." And she was referencing green iguanas laying nests in the canal banks of her, multi-million-dollar home. So,
yeah,
well,
that's
list
one
that
perspective.
That list that came out a couple months ago, and it had carpets on it, and ball pythons, and rainbow boas, and a lot of commonly kept stuff. It just got released. They sent that to one of the U.S. Art Florida people. And, of course, I got, nervous. I'm like, oh, crap, that's a lot of stuff that I keep. That's not good. And those are all the species that they've either assessed for how, if they're high risk, mid risk, low risk for being invasive or whatever. But come to find out, that list has been around for about a decade. It's nothing new. Those have always been there. It just wasn't put out to the public. So there's that too. This isn't like an overnight thing. This has been something that's been on the board for a while, and they haven't done anything yet. So who knows if anything's going to come of it?
It's just a scare tactic, or is it something they're actually working on that they would make happen if they could? Yeah.
Well, I think opportunity is the is something that every politician and every regulator looks for when they're trying to do something, and if they see an in with an opportunity,
low hanging fruit,
all of a sudden stuff that was dead on the road wakes up and starts walking around again. So,
Yep.
Well, that list had boa constrictors on it, and they were assessed years ago, and they were determined to be high risk probability for being invasive here in Florida. They're not banned, and they've known this for 10 to 15 years. So it makes you wonder, is there some type of, do they look at the market of them or whatever? Are they just trying to get the low hanging fruit like the yellow anacondas that a lot of people don't have? It's hard to say because we don't know their whole hand.
Well,
we just know what they're letting out.
As soon as you ban the green iguanas, they're going to disappear from the rich people's docks. That's how it works. So, it'll fix the problem immediately.
And they're not doing that. Yeah. They're breeding, and now there's more of them because collectors aren't able to go and scoop the babies up and send them out of the state like they used to.
Exactly. Yep. You try to fix a problem and you make it worse. All right. Well, you guys
gotta learn the hard way.
You guys ready to fight?
Oh yeah. Now I'm primed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got
his ire up.
Blood pressure up. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Right.
Yep.
Oh,
all right. So today we're going to be you guys are going to be discussing is Lineage good, or I mean, is it important, or is it just something snake nerds care about and they want to have, you know, their lineaged animals and to show off to their other snake buddies, or if it actually means something or is helpful. So did I get the gist of it? Yeah. So yeah, Phil contacted us while we were out herping Arizona. So yeah, we're excited.
Which,
to get
by the way, I wanted to say that episode you guys did from the field in the car was one of my favorite podcasts like of all time.
Oh, cool!
Because you get great conversation. Yeah, you guys got great conversation from different aspects, different thoughts and opinions, and then at the same time, it's like, oh, Toad, hold on,
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Pause, Toad. Pause, Toad. Like, it was awesome.
Cool.
It was just awesome. Just wanted to say that.
It was really interesting because I told Justin, like, I think we should scrap the episode because it was like so like scatterbrain. Like I felt like it was just so unfocused, and like I was like, I'm not even sure how that came out. I don't really know. Like, we stopped so much and we had to do it twice because Justin recorded it through the speakers of the car at first, and it was like. So yeah, and I did kind of listen to some of it, and I kind of see what you mean. Like it was definitely cool. Like listening back because I'm like, oh, I remember. It's like I was back in the car again.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, Nipper sent a message saying, "Hearing the wheels, you know, it's like makes me itch to get back out there."
Yeah, for sure.
I just think like I've tried to do the like live herping, live road cruising, and like Casey Cannon and I did one. And we didn't find anything. And then at one point, like, a meteor crashed, and it was, like, crazy lighting up the sky. And both of us were like, oh, my God, aliens. And everyone's listening to this live going, like, what the hell's wrong with these guys? Find a freaking snake.
That's awesome.
So I've had such bad luck with it. It was great to hear you guys have an awesome one.
Yeah. That night was kind of slow, too. We only found the couple toads and the western diamondback and the little gecko. But, yeah, it was fun. I mean, those guys, that was a fun crew, so... Had a good time out there.
Definitely.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and flip the coin. Who wants to call it?
I'll let Phil do it. This was his baby.
All right. Go ahead, Phil.
All right. I'll say heads.
Heads. It is heads. You have won the coin toss. So
nice. You
got to pick your side.
I'm going to pick the side that Lineage is a waste of time.
Okay. All right. Well, and as the coin,
I think I feel Nick Mutton knocking on my door.
The coin toss winner, do you want to go first or do you want to defer to Billy?
Oh no, I'll defer to Billy.
Okay. All right.
Oh, you jerk.
I'm all on Phil.
All right.
I like this is that was the side I would have picked and exactly the way I would have handled that. So well done,
on the
Phil.
screen, I'm above Billy,
right.
and I kind of side with could be a really good thing. So I'm gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna
All right.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
All right.
All right. So let's get into it. Lineage doesn't matter. Obviously, I'm going to refer a lot to carpets here, since that's what I deal with mostly.
That's what we like.
Does lineage matter? I think it is. It is. I think it does matter, especially for a species like carpets that haven't, for the most part, legally been exported since the late 70s, early 80s, stuff like that. So if I guess it just depends on what kind of keeper you are. If you really want that wild type animal, the ones that came in, if you can track them and trace them back 20, 30 years, how cool is that? Like you think about people that have purebred dogs and all that, it's the same concept. It's not any different in snakes. So is it absolutely, necessary? Not for everything, but for the right person, it absolutely is, something that people want. Think about a lot of customers that you get. What's the first thing they ask, especially with carpets? Hey, what's the lineage on this? Mm-hmm. What's that? And once you get into carpets and you start to learn everything and, you get everything straight, they're a little hard to understand at first, but you'll start to hear buzzwords that'll make sense and you'll know where they're coming from. If I say, hey, this is a Lasik line jungle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know the look that they're going to have. If you have those animals, you can reproduce that look. You know exactly what you're getting. There's no guesswork. There's no, anything that's going to come out of the woodwork that you're not expecting. So from a breeder standpoint, that would be important, because now you know what you're going to produce, you know what you're going to have, and you can be consistent year after year with what you put out, and people are going to know what you're asking for, and they're also going to be willing to pay more as well, because you have that lineage behind you. If you end up having a lineage chart where you can go back with the parents, grandparents, great grandparents, and it goes back 20 years, that animal is going to be one of the trophy animals in your collection, whether if it's trophy by looks or if it's just trophy by lineage, because you can say, hey, here's what this animal is, and here's why I can say that. So it's my opening statement on
and just to add to that,
there.
If you've got that lineage with all the ancestors of your animal, you can also see at a glance what everybody looks like and get a good view of kind of what you can expect from your new baby, I guess. All right, Phil, floor is yours.
Well,
Let's see it, Phil. Let's hear it.
I thank you for that insight. I agree with you on a lot of those topics. I'll start off by saying that
you can't agree with me. That's not the point of this.
Oh, no, but I can though. So I will say this flat out. I think that Lineage is cool. I enjoy Lineage. In fact, there's actually animals in my collection that I purchased specifically because they came from particular breeders and particular lines. That being said, our community is very small, but our hobby is very big. And if you go into any exotic reptile store in the country, as a normal Joe Schmo off the street says, you know what, I think I'm going to get my first reptile. I think I'm going to get my kid a bearded dragon or what have you. 95% of those animals in those stores, the staff, the owners, the clerks have no idea where that animal came from, who it was bred by, who the parents were, what they looked like, when they were imported, when they were bred, how many generations, F10, F50, whatever it may be. They have no idea. But it doesn't deter from the fact that the animal is awesome and that it's going to be enjoyed by a loving family and whoever's going to be keeping it. So when I go into one of my local pet shops that's a mom and pop joint, and I say, man, look at these baby coastals. It's 'tis the season, right? Look at these baby coastals. Who produced these? I have no idea. Well, where'd you get them from? This guy who does a lot of wholesaling, his name's Bob. Okay, well, can we find out? No, because Bob has no idea. Bob buys from 7 different breeders, and he has no idea where this baby came from. Now, to me, because I'm part of that 5%, it might make a difference. But to the other 95% of the people shopping for a baby snake, it's irrelevant to them. And that's why most of these pet shops don't keep track of that. I'm not saying necessarily that the Lineage is bad overall. I think it's great. I come from a horse family where racehorses, Lineage is everything. But to the normal person going to buy their first snake or going to buy a pet snake or a pet lizard, what have you, it's honestly irrelevant to them. And that's the majority of the people in our hobby. Not necessarily the community, not necessarily like the diehard weirdos like us, but to the average person, it's irrelevant.
Fair point. Yeah. What you got for that, Billy?
All right. So I think we can all agree with someone first gets in the carpets. They don't know much about, as much as we nerd out about it and all the different lines and all that. So they just see a cool carpet. They pick it up. They don't know anything about it. They raise it up for 3, 4, 5 years. And then they start thinking about breeding. They start looking into that more. And then what do they run into? Well, hey, if you have an IJ, you should breed it to another IJ and keep that going. Jungle, whatever. Then they find out that they can't figure out what their animal is for sure because they never asked those questions, or they got it from the mom and pop shop that isn't, doesn't know, or got it from 8 different people, whatever happens. And what ends up happening, I've seen it time and time again. Now they want to get into breeding and they're not going to use that animal because it doesn't have the lineage behind it. So if you're looking for, just a pet, of course it doesn't matter if that's what you're looking for. But if your end goal is to breed, now it ends up being a thing that's important to you and something that you want to go into. Another point I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure you remember, Justin, this. Remember when Diamond Jungles were a huge thing. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
50%, 75%, 88%.
Yep.
All that.
Selling for more than
we
diamonds were in some cases. Some of the crosses.
Yeah, before we figured out how to keep diamonds and all that. And we kept really good track of, what they were. They were, 75% San Diego line diamond to a Python Pete line jungle. And you could track all that and you knew what you had. And then diamonds ended up making a surge, figured those out. Now those animals are, I like to think they didn't all pass away. I'm sure they're still floating out there somewhere, but now we have, question marks into where, what is it and what are all these animals that we see now, because I like to think that they had to go somewhere. Something had to happen with them, so if we still had the lineage behind everything, we could know, where those animals went, what they're doing now, what their babies are doing now, all that. So when you have the lineage, you have the ability to track that, and you know exactly what you're putting into your projects. I like doing morph projects where, let's say I have a caramel that's a coastal animal, granite that's a IJ animal, and a zebra that's a jungle animal. I like to know how much percentage of each subspecies is within that animal, to where I can completely track what it is. So that's my outlook on that. It's basically the more knowledge you have on your animals, the more you can kind of guess on what is going to express out of the babies, and then you can be more upfront and honest about what your animal is. It's all about representing exactly what they are, and having that lineage is basically the only way you can do that.
Which we know, reptile people are, really good at, and they never try to misrepresent an animal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, do you guys feel like, so I had, back in the day, and I bought them, I don't remember if I bought them through Fauna, King Snake, but they were hairline jungles. It was a highlighter Soul Glow, I believe, was the clutch that they came from.
I got some babies from you. They were cool.
Yeah, so they were amazing. Fantastic animals. But I bought them secondhand from a guy who supposedly bought them from Andrew, and this is what he sold them as. I had no way to I bought them as babies, and I had no way to verify. It's not like I bought them from Andrew, right? But I bought them from this guy, and they looked like nice jungles, right? They grew up. They looked like highlighter jungles. Were they? I don't know. I can't verify that. But you know what? I didn't have any problem selling them because they looked like highlighter jungles. Yeah. And, oh, by the way, the lineage on highlighter jungles, suspect, but nobody cared.
Animals.
Yeah, exactly. And so, And I guess the point I'm making is, I feel like there's this threshold where when the animal's hot enough, people are like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I like it. I want it. You know what I mean?
Working on it.
Yes. Right. No,
that's a great point. And it kind of goes with what I was Billy kind of unknowingly augmented what I was just talking about, because he kept saying when they, the meaning people that want to breed, people that want to really get nose deep in this, right? But that's not the majority of people. That's our core little, collective community, right? And there are so many people that go to a reptile show and they go, I want to get a jungle carpet, right? And they see one from, whether it be, Australian Addiction or Uabami or whatever, right? And they buy it and they're like, this is really cool. And they may ask the lineage, but did they retain it? Did they write it down? Do they really even know? Or do they just want to ask the right questions on the scene? They take it home, they raise it up, they go, man, this is so cool. I want to breed this, but I really have no idea what it is. It's not going to stop them from doing it. Yeah, Billy has a good point of maybe they buy other animals and they just keep that one as a pet. But the majority of people that are buying this stuff, it doesn't pertain to them because they're either not going to breed it. And if they do, then they're just going to do whatever they want to do or what they think they might want to do. And I really feel like Lineage is great for particular individuals to keep going with their projects, but it's honestly not relative to the grand scheme of things of people keeping these animals. For the majority of people, not us, not the freak weirdos like us that are obsessed with it. You know what I mean? And it just goes back to that classic pet shop scenario of, I can't tell you how many times working in pet shops, people will say, oh, I want to get a carpet python. They buy a carpet python. And then like 3-4 years later, like, hey, I think I might breed it. What should I do? Well, is it a jungle? Yeah, it's a jungle. Well, then breed it to another jungle. All right, cool. I'll find a pretty one. Like, the concept of lineage is irrelevant to them. And same thing goes for the guys and gals that work in the shops. They don't look at it as lineage because the people that are there that are buying those animals from them are not asking these questions. It's irrelevant. So, as much as I think lineage is cool, in the grand scheme of our hobby, it doesn't really matter to the normal stuff, the normal animals, the normal lines, the normal species. You know what I mean? Now, you get something like rough scale pythons. There's only so many of them. Everyone's going to ask. It's super niche. Everyone's going to ask, okay, who did this come from? Who did this come from? How old is it here? How long did they have it? Was that bred after they moved or before they moved? Because I know in 2016 they moved, and that may have changed things in their DNA or something. I don't know. That's super duper niche. But at the same time, it doesn't matter because they all came from the same animals that were imported.
Yeah. But I think,
and for the record, Phil, we say nipper on this show. It's super nipper. Yeah,
I apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just wanted to,
I won't have it.
I think
nipper always gets his niche.
To Billy's point, though, if they go and they get it really excited, like I did, and probably all of us did, when they said, okay, I started out with some random, actually I started out with Python Pete Lineage jungles that were purchased directly from Pete. But, when I did a lot of research when I was going to buy the first carpet, and I discovered there were more than just jungles, and, there were all these other types. And if nobody's keeping track, then and a flashy morph comes along, all of a sudden all you have are just carpets, right? Just random, kind of bred into each other carpets. So I don't know. I see, that's kind of, at least for me, one of the important parts of lineage is you can kind of keep all the different subspecies and all the different things straight. And if you're going by locality, even better in my mind, because then that gives them the opportunity to work with that down the line when they discover there's an inland or there's a, and it's not just a big mishmash of inland jungle diamond or whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack there, but I just couldn't hold that one back. You want to elaborate on that?
So, yeah, absolutely. So locales was something I wanted to hit on, because it's one of those things. Once you breed them to something that's not that same locale, it's gone. And if everybody has the mentality of, hey, it's carpet's a carpet, I really don't care. Like just like you said, down the line, the potential for that casual person that just got a carpet, the potential for them to want to breed and get deeper into it down the line is fairly high. I think. Mm-hmm. If they end up keeping it for 4 or 5 years, I mean, the next progression is wanting to breed, and then you start looking at you look at different breeders and what they're producing and what they're offering and what people are interested in getting. You will find that once you get out of the mom and pop shop, pet shop realm, which there's nothing wrong with that, but once you outgrow that and you start going to shows, you start going to breeders' websites and stuff, then it does matter. So even though it might not matter at the beginning, there'll come a point where it does for someone who takes it seriously. Now, there are going to be people that, hey, I just want a couple carpets and I just want a pretty snake. Absolutely, that's always going to be there, but there should always be that opportunity to get, those Rockhamptons, those gelatins, those inlands, the Brettles, stuff like that. And if we just mismatch everything and just don't keep track of anything, then that's where we'll end up losing, species or subspecies to the hobby. How many have we lost to the hobby as it is, and all the different species that we have or used to have? Look at Alterna. That's a good example, with all the different localities and how everybody wants to keep those pure and all that. Have you ever seen someone try to, move one that they didn't know what it was, whether if it's Christmas Mountain or whatever, good luck. So it just depends on what realm you're in. Another point that I wanted to bring up, let's say you're breeding a specific line or whatever, and a defect comes up. If you keep that line pure, you can kind of keep track more of where that defect come from, and then, end up working to either rectify the situation or realize that it's, a moot point. Granites come to mind. With that, when they first came over, they were already incredibly inbred, and it took a little bit, but once we figured out, we just have to outcross them, and then, kept them pure and all that. Of course, we could have just bred them to jungles and coastals and, would have did the same thing, but we were able to save that mutation and strengthen it and keep it pure to where now, if you go to the right breeders, they have, pure IJ granites, and they don't have any of the fertility issues, or some of them were doing the neuro thing and all that. But by people carrying and keeping that pure, now we can still offer that to people once they get to that step in the game. Instead of it just being, a carpet's a carpet.
Pure defect morph.
Yeah, but see, I see what you're saying with the whole, not keeping a carpet, right? But I really do feel like we're still talking about an in-depth nipper.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, an in-depth nipper that, let's say someone decides they want to get a carpet python because they saw me playing with mine, and they're like, oh, Phil's got one that's really cool. I'm going to get one. Let me do some homework. Let me do some Googling, which is what nobody ever does, to be brutally honest. They either go down a really deep rabbit hole, or they just go by the first one they find. And that, yes, that was very stereotypical and cliche of me to say that, but whatever. So
it's true.
So they decide, oh, wow, look at those gelatins. Those gelatins are awesome, but man, they are a lot of money. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Port Moresby purples, they look exactly the same, and they're like $500 less. So I'm just going to buy one of those, and then later on, I'll get a gelatin when I got a little extra money, and I'll just put them together. It's close enough. They're carpets. They look very similar. They're both brown, whatever. And then later on, sells them as gelatins. Well, then it's all irrelevant. I bought really, really nice neon orange Davis Mountain subox that were supposed to be 100% het for Xanthic, until Rob Stone told me that the Davis Mountain localities are devoid of the Xanthic gene, and that they're either not Xanthic at all or not het at all, or the person boldly lied to me and they're mudded out. So I wound up getting rid of those animals regardless, but it just goes to show you that Lineage is cool, but it doesn't change how people are going to act. It doesn't change what people are going to do. And just because it's supposed to be one thing doesn't necessarily mean that it always is. We have to go to the people and trust that the breeders and the producers, for lack of a better synonym, are trustworthy individuals. And there's a lot of them are. All of you guys are. I trust all of you guys, right? But when it comes down to brass tacks, it's still a jungle, and it's still a carpet, and it's still attractive, and that's not going to stop anyone from A, loving that animal, or B, breeding it to just another attractive carpet. And everyone talks about lines, right? I mean, I've got tons of line stuff, right? Specifically because I enjoyed the breeder and I enjoyed that line. But who's to say that you can't make your own line? Who's to say that, and you guys have had this discussion about line stuff on your show and on NPR and stuff. What determines a line, right? Who's to say that you couldn't take two mutt jungles, right, and breed them consistently to themselves, to siblings, whatever, and produce some bomb-ass animals and make your own line? And everyone's going to poo-poo it and say, oh, no, don't buy that. That's the Phil line. They start off as trash. No, they're going to say, those snakes are freaking cool. I'm going to buy them. Well, hopefully. So I think that the Lineage is great. But again, it's only relative in certain consistencies, in certain circles, in certain instances. And it's not always the case. It doesn't always need to be.
Well, you proved my point with your subox, that once you found out that they weren't pure, you got rid of them right away. So it is important.
Well, hold on a second. It was important to what I wanted to do. But at the same time, I have other subocs that are just straight mutts, and I'm okay with that. And I know they're mutts, and I'm going to breed them, and I'm going to make more attractive mutts. Now, I'm the kind of guy that won't say, oh, they came from Billy Hunt, they're Billy Hunt line. I'm not going to do that. But there's copious amounts of other people that not only will do that, they may not even know that that's a thing.
Yeah.
And then someone's going to ask them and be like, hey, man, dude, that subok looks awesome. Whose line is that? I have no idea. It's got 2 stripes on its back. Is that the line you mean? And people are still going to buy it because they like it. You know what I mean? And I really feel like Lineage is a great thing, but it's not necessary in all cases at all. And 95% of the time, and again, my statistics, excuse me, are not definitive, but they're not real. I just made them up in my head. But the majority of people buying these animals have no concept of Lineage and honestly don't care.
And hey, I remember a carpet breeder back in the MP days who had a pair of snakes that literally changed subspecies as time went on. Like literally in front, like literally he would post it, and then like a couple years later, it was something else and something else, and you're like, am I on drugs? Like, what is, so, and I'm sure you guys have probably talked to people who have told you a story about reptiles, and as time goes on, the story changes a little bit. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think all of that is human nature. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of tough sometimes. To your point though, Billy, like, you have to be able to anchor somewhere, and there does need to be some way to, like, somebody needs to keep track, right? But we're always fighting uphill against human nature.
Well, I had it work the opposite way with me. We bought Ben and I bought a pair of diamond pythons, and they were the Cypress Creek line, and everybody told us, those are yeah, exactly. I mean, do that. And then I guess later, I think was it Nick that found out they were actually a pure line of diamonds. Somebody just didn't think they looked right, and so they started telling everybody they were crosses. And so they became crosses in everybody's mind, and we got rid of them because we were told they were most likely crosses, which they probably weren't.
I don't want to be that guy, but I swear to God, back in the day, Nick was also the guy who was like, yeah, that guy has diamond jungle crosses and real jungles, so you can't trust his stuff.
He was saying that about Python Pete, and I'm like, well, Pete was selling crosses for more, so why would he lie that his jungles were pure and sell them as pure if he could get more money by saying they were crosses, And
that's another
it's tricky.
People will salt your game, and it's like, that guy might have done anything wrong, but and somebody train wrecked his shit.
Yeah, somebody might go to the lengths of faking a lineage chart with a bunch of just random pictures of animals that they had. There's no evidence that was, and you're gonna run across those people. But usually they get outed at some point. You're gonna figure out I bought a pair of Cape York spotted pythons, and I got granites out of them. I'm like, well, I guess they're not pure. So I got rid of those, kind of pulled a fill there and got rid of them because they were not pure. They had some mainland spotted in there. So, but I kept a pair of the granites. They're beautiful, but I didn't keep the normals, and trying to pawn them off as Cape Yorks. That kind of pissed me off, to be honest, but. It happens a lot in the reptile game. Somebody thinks they can, and I think that's part of it. It's a marketing thing. If you can show lineage, people have more confidence that what you're selling is what you're saying it is, and so other people go along and kind of do the same thing. They kind of counterfeit that to get sales.
But we're also talking majority because all of us keep Morelia. We're also talking about an animal like Morelia that is in limited supply. Mm-hmm. It is a legitimate commodity because there's only so many of them here. We only have so much genes and data and animals to work with. So naturally, you'd want to preserve as much lineage as you could. But that's just us with our Morelia. You look at all these other animals that are either field collected or even long-term captives that are so prevalent and so readily available that no one cares. And now, granted, someone may say, oh, my friend produced this, I want one of theirs, or, oh, Billy produces a nice one, I want one of his. But Billy may not know where they came from. Billy may have caught them from 3 different counties and mixed them together because they look really good. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, locality's cool and people like that. But again, it's super nipper. And it only applies in certain scenarios. It does. I mean, people that want a particular garter snake or they want a particular corn snake. Yeah, corn snake lineage is fantastic because you've got all these different crazy morphs. But at the same time, most corn snake guys and gals are swapping them across each other, and it all gets lost in translation anyway. So just because you got it from Phil, where did Phil get it from? Did you ask him that? Does he have that written down? Who the hell knows? You still got an awesome snake that the genes that are in there, or you're assuming that you know. You can only hope, kind of like my subox and Justin's carpets.
So a point that I'm thinking of with this is I'm thinking of Ridley Eye. So there's different looks to Ridley Eye with different locales. You have obviously your Cameroon Highland animals that everybody loves. Those are the super bright ones, and all the colors are incredible. They look like rainbows. But then you have your more there's no ugly one, but compared to the Highland animals, you have your Malaysian ones that are a little more drab. And then even now you have the Sumatrans, or some are calling them Grabowski. It's kind of still up in the air. But if you keep those localities or looks pure, then when someone's researching, they're seeing what look they like more. They know, hey, if I go to this guy that's only keeping Malaysian animals, and they're still able to bring in animals from Malaysia, and they can keep the line pure but add new blood to it and all that, then they're going to go to that guy. If they want the Highland animals or whatever. So if you just mix and match them all together, then you take that ability to get the specific look that you want completely out of it. Is it a nipper thing? Depends on who you're looking, who you're asking. But, when people see an animal that they want, they see a look that they want, they research into it enough, they'll find that it's from a certain line, it's from a certain locality. And if they can't find somebody that's taken the time or cared enough to keep it pure and keep it that locality or line, then they're not going to be happy with what they end up getting. So there has to be those people, like we said, somebody has to put the time in to do this. Mm-hmm. A lot of my projects, I have, like 3 or 4 different striped coastal lines. I'm on the camp of different lines instead of a stripe as a tiger. Because I'm seeing just in my own collection, the different lines throw different looks, and I'm seeing different things. So I'm comfortable calling those all different lines. And at the end of the day, they're, from different founder animals, different bloodlines, all that. If someone's looking for a Balin tiger, got those. If someone's looking for, I have the Russian Balin crosses. I'm very upfront that the ones that I have are 50% Russian blood, 50% Balin blood. Mm-hmm. They're not pure, but I'm also being upfront with what they are. So when someone gets them, they know exactly what they're getting. And then when they decide to move that project along, 3-4 years down the road, hopefully they're going to keep track of what they're doing. And then obviously you can't control what people do, but all you can do is what you can do. You can only control what you do. Mm-hmm. It depends on the person. If it's someone that is a casual keeper, like Bill's talking about, the 98% or whatever, okay, so be it. But, they're not the ones that are going to keep these lines going. Those lines have to keep going at some point.
Mm-hmm. So, Billy, I got one for you. So I just hatched out some red coastals from Camus that was from Luke Snell's red line, the male that founded Luke Snell's red line. And I paired it with a coastal female that I've had for, I don't know, since the early MP days. And that I got from a guy named Ben Team. And I tried to get Lineage, from Ben, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. I got it from this guy in Philly. He didn't know. So I'm like, okay, cool. So basically the best I could do is say, like, it looks like a pure coastal to me. It's sized like a pure coastal. To me, I think this is a pure coastal. But, I absolutely have to say, like, hey, I don't know. I know half of the lineage in these babies, but I don't know what the female, I don't know the backstory on the female. And I feel like sometimes, that's just how it is. You just have to do that. Like, and you disclose it and you say, it's up to you, right? It's your choice.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that might be a reason not to work with, like, would you buy into that red line if you had a chance, knowing like the females potentially from an unknown lineage?
Absolutely, because it's all about just being honest and upfront. It's when people are being shady that the problems come out. If you're completely honest about what the animals are, and people know that getting into it, once it leaves your place, you can only do so much. If you worry about what everyone else is doing, you're going to drive yourself crazy, and you're not going to focus on your stuff. I have some M-Pen red stripe stuff and, stripe stuff from Pinnell. And he sent me lineage charts and all that. His red line comes from an animal he got that was a red coastal that was not documented at a show in 2005. And I know that, and I still got into the project because I like the animal.
Yeah.
But I also know that
I will say this, they do look freaking awesome.
And they throw crazy looking babies. Like, dude, I had a one from that red stripe line, and it was it's the nicest coastal I've ever seen in my life. Like, amazing stuff.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, amazing.
They're gorgeous, but it falls in that same category of the highlighter jungles back in the day.
Yeah.
We knew that they were questionable and that there was undocumented animals, but we know that getting into it, and we know that's part of that line. And you call it what it is. You don't say, hey, I know it's a pure jungle, but I have highlighter in the lineage. That's not a thing. I have striped jungles that I work with, or jungles that I work with. There's an undocumented animal that I started that whole thing with. And I think I'm 3 generations in now, 2 or 3. And I'm still completely transparent about what it is. I don't call them pure jungles. I call them, what they are. It's all about representing your animals to the best of your ability. And if, you can't, when you try to, like, if I tried to pass them off as, pures, that's where the issues are going to come up. But like, I hatched out babies last year, and I had some of the top, tier jungle guys. As soon as they saw how striped they were like, what's the lineage? Like, that was just a question. Yeah. What's the lineage? And I was honest with them, like, oh, okay, good, cool. I didn't have money to spend anyway, because that's not what they're looking for. But as long as you're honest to your ability, like you're saying with your reds, that's the best you can do. And people getting into it have to know that when they get into it.
I think too,
those top tier jungle guys aren't going to light your carpet book, Justin.
Yeah. on that same page though, too,
I like it.
You might like take your have the formula. It's like writing down the formula. If you get some cool look and you say, I crossed this line and this line and I got this, that documents that, and then you can use that down the road, or somebody else can use that down the road and go, oh, I've got that mix. And, I think a lot of people might want to try to keep that as a trade secret or something, like that. But I think, there's value in those lineages as well, even if they're not, purity lineages or whatever. You can have that information. It's still valuable.
And I think that kind of goes back to what Billy was saying about, like lineage phenotypes almost, breeding lineage phenotypes together to get almost their own line, where you can pretty much, and, I think that's like, people think about it like, I think that's probably the story there is, with lineage charts and line based phenotypes, you can really, do some pretty cool stuff, and people have a good, a trust behind that. I think that's a very true thing.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, can I tell the story as to why this fight actually came about?
Oh, please do, Phil. Please do.
Do you mind, Billy?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
So Billy has these striped jungles they're freaking gorgeous, right? And I don't want to speak ill of one of my best friends, but he's a little self-conscious about the whole fact that it's undocumented, right? Well, I have an F1 MIA, and I love the look of his baby jungles from that undocumented parent, and I want to do it. And Billy was kind of like, "Hey, man, you should really think about what you're going to do, because you don't want to mess up those fresh MIA genes, And part of me wants to do it just to do it. You know what I mean? Be like, yeah, this is what it is. It's a mutt and fresh MIA. What do you think? You want to buy it? You want to not buy it? You want to trade? What do you want to do? And it made me sad that Billy's undocumented jungle doesn't hold muster in certain people's eyes when they're freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And they're gonna produce amazing stuff in the future, however you want to put it into a project. So just because it doesn't have lineage written down on paper shouldn't detract from the awesomeness of the animal and the awesome potential that it has for the future of its progeny, whatever you want to call it, right? So yeah, Billy's showing a picture right now.
Oh,
Look
nice.
at that thing.
Yeah, that's nice.
This thing is killer, man. And that's where this whole
very classic coastal stripe, though.
Right.
Very classic looking coastal stripe. I know.
But the colors, man.
Yeah, just wait for the book.
Oh, I am.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's been my thing. Like, so I had the first jungle I ever got. I got from Ken Foose at Las Vegas Exotics, Las Vegas Pets, whatever. No. And exotic pets. And I didn't know the lineage, but it was my first carpet, and I was just super into it. And I grew this thing up. This girl was fucking badass looking when she grew up. And I bred her to a coastal, and what came out of that probably was the nicest ivory looking mutts that would put any ivory jungle that has ever been produced to shame. Like, they glowed in the dark ivory white, and they were bad as fuck. And they're total mutts. And, people would see them and be like, oh my God, that's insane looking. But, it's a crap carpet according to everybody. And so I guess my point that I'm making is people get so hung up on the name, or they get so hung up on the background, or the I have to. It's like it like adds to the unobtainium of the animal, right? Yeah. And if it's a mutt and it's just a hodgepodge, then it's not a long succession of special to culminate in.
Unless it's a documented mutt that has that lineage, then they make that a big deal.
and that's fair.
Yeah.
But when you go diamond jungle to coastal, I don't know, man. Most people are like, they do that for the look of the animal, right? Sure. It's got to be like, if it's not a crazy looking animal, they're like, yeah, get that trash out of my face. But those
Scream
right?
Jaguars are a great example of that, where everybody wanted that look and everybody was chasing that look, and so that lineage of Scream Jaguars, that sold. And that was the marketing thing. And they had lineage, and they had, the breeders shown and what was in them.
I mean, I think you could go jag cross. You could do a lot of jag crosses and say that was the way those were the hot ones. People were like, yeah, who cares if the rest of the clutch is unsellable mutts?
Mm-hmm.
But I got this one animal that's freaking awesome.
Some of those multi-way, or I think there's Brettles in them or something that Don Hamper's selling.
Yeah,
those are crazy cool looking animals.
Crazy looking.
They're gorgeous,
Yeah.
And I mean, what's wrong with having a little side project where you have a pair of those things and just breed crazy looking animals?
And as long as you're representing them right, and being forthright about where they came from and what they have in them, then I agree. Like it shouldn't be a thing. It's just like, it's like where those two worlds mash. Sometimes we just don't do that very well. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like, for some reason, it either has to be like perfectly documented and perfectly pure, mm-hmm. or like, you know, messy and undocumented, and that's okay. Like, I don't know. I just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it does seem. It does seem. Oh, go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Say what you're saying, Doc.
Oh, just the fact that if you kind of feel like if I have the undocumented, just generic carpets, I wholesale them and they go into the pet trade, and then the people you're talking about, the 98% will buy those and be happy with their carpet python, and that's great, that's it. But I do think there should be that option if you want the Lineage or you want the pure or you want that, there should be an outlet for that, and and Lineage helps to document that and kind of verify or provide some evidence of that.
And this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up because I feel like I'm said too much. But I think it's how a breeder wants to plug into the market. As a breeder, what do you want to do? What's your goal? Where do you want to sit in the many facets of being a reptile breeder?
And Lineage does that, right? It kind of sets you. It shows that you're a little more.
It can.
I'm
right
too
on top of the
lazy for
pedestal.
Those. So I don't do a good job.
And like we're saying, just having Lineage doesn't mean it has to be pure. Mm-hmm. It's just having the Lineage is just doing the best of your ability to track what it was.
Well, look at all those mud ass chondros that people are getting crazy money for, and
and they have Lineage back to Python Eve, and they're all hybrids.
They're all hybrids.
All the way back to Bushmaster, which may or may not be in the locality that was brought in under. So
yeah. Well, I think it's also too is somebody. I have an affinity for black snakes. A good friend of mine, gave me a very, very rare, very expensive locality of Mexican black kings. And that's a species that we're not going to get more of because all those sites are closed. There's no export. We only have what we have here. But people realize that they're cool, and they started producing them again after like a 10-year hiatus. And now my really expensive ones that I've been raising for 3 years, no one cares. I don't even remember what the locality is because every time I tell the locality to someone, send something with lots of vowels in there, right? People are like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know they had locality ones.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then what's the point? Like, I might as well just mud them out. They're black snakes, I bet I might as well mud them out and diversify the gene pool.
Until that catches fire and everybody goes, I want that locality. And you're like, oh, yeah, I have that locality. And then you can say, I do have that documented locality. Here's my Lineage.
Only if that happens.
Well, and who knows? I mean, sorry, I'm kind of like Chuck said, still in the show a little here, but
no, it's cool.
But
it's cool.
Like we don't know when they're going to shut the doors on imports, and if you're keeping locality specific, retics, say, back when they were just being imported willy-nilly, and then all of a sudden they shut the doors and you're the only ones with, this Bali locality or Sumatra, whatever locality, and you can say, hey, I brought these in, they were from this place, that kind of thing. Whether it's, maybe the importer was a little off or whatever, it doesn't matter to that extent. I mean, you've got as the best documentation you can, but you have some locality, whereas everything else is just mudded out and morphed out, and nobody knows and nobody cares. But then down the road, somebody might care and say, hey, I saw this snake in the wild and I really want that, something that looks like that. I can't find it because everything's a morph. It's kind of tragic.
It's very true.
So to give an example of kind of the opposite side, instead of keeping things, wild type and all that, there's a ball python breeder, Tom Bernhardt, who has spent like the last 15, 20 years or so, don't quote me on that, on black pastel animals. To the point where if you put one of his animals next to the next guy's black pastel, there's no tell, like it's not fair how different they look, because he's taking the time to refine that gene and make it his own to where now it's Tom Bernhardt line, black pastel, and then whatever other combos he puts in it, to where now people recognize that. And if they want that look, that's where they have to go. And he has, the lineage behind it to give them that, and they, they're getting from a respected breeder, and they're getting what they're asking for. If you didn't do that, that wouldn't be an option. It would just be, a morph is a morph is a morph type of thing, and not knowing.
Just give me the gene. I don't care what it looks like. I just want the gene.
Yeah. Just another option on it. You could take something that you really like that everybody has and refine it, make your own quote unquote line, if you will. And, then that's something people will look for and will be sought after. That's another reason to do it. So it will, if you want to be a breeder, you always want something that sets you apart from everyone else, or else you're just another face in the crowd. So that's another way you can do it. And then if you have the lineage to back it up, that makes it even more valuable.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I really do agree with you, man. I'm with you. But we're still talking about a small, tiny group of this massive hobby. And when someone like the Bells produce 10,000 California king snakes in a year to supply every single Petco across the country, not a single person that buys those animals is ever going to ask who bred them. And if they do, the clerk at Petco, nothing against Petco, the clerk at the big box chain store is not going to know the answer. They're not, because they're not the one who bought it. Their manager's not the one who bought it. The purchasing district manager of the county perhaps may have asked for California king snakes. But again, they don't know where it came from. So it's futile. And we're still talking about this very small nipper of a group.
Thank you.
It may be futile for that, that part of the market. But to say that lineage doesn't matter at all because the majority doesn't, care, that's not right to say either.
Preach.
Because there should always be that option. If I want to get pure Rockhampton coastals, I should be able to get that. I shouldn't have to get Rockhampton cross with whatever, as long as they're still available. With the jungle. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry.
Rockhamptons don't stripe, so maybe.
No, I agree with you, but at the same time, no one. How do I phrase this? You're right. You shouldn't be obligated to buy something that is a mutt that's not lineage traced. But at the same time, there's so few of that unless you're in this like we are, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't.
I get what you're saying, but you're talking about a certain part of the hobby that isn't the whole hobby.
Yeah, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
So
you're aging yourself there, Doc.
Right. Babies, bathwater.
No, and like I said, man, I'm guilty of it. I have a ton of locality stuff. I have a ton of selective breeders that I've chosen for their animals and those animals' lineages. But at the same time, I bought a lot of stuff because I just liked the way it looked. And there's been other times when I wanted to know the lineage and I couldn't. It was physically impossible. I have a Darwin carpet that is a female, and everyone who sees her loves her. And I'm convinced that she's pure Darwin, but I have no idea where she came from, who produced her, what she's mixed with. So, like, when the time comes that she's big enough to breed, I have to be really selective as to what I put to her, because if I do produce something, I have to be the nice guy and say, look, I have no idea where mom came from, but she's freaking awesome looking, and just go with it. I bought her from Underground, and I said, hey, who produced this? And no one knew. No one knew. And finally, I talked to the owner, and I was like, hey, man, where did these carpets you bought last week come from? Oh, it's some guy named Chris in Miami. He had a Class 3 license, so we bought him. That's it. No idea. Yep. There's a lot of Chris's in Miami.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Couple.
But it doesn't change the fact that that animal is stellar, and I'm going to produce her, and I'm going to have an awesome time with it. You know what I mean? And the people that
You'll have
give
a
these
clutch of
animals to.
variegata.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess that here I am talking when I said I wasn't going to, but I kind of mash like what we were talking about earlier about regulation and our ability to even keep carpets, and like, I mean, to the point of like, then is our most pressing issue the purity of our carpets, or is it just being able to keep carpets in general? Or does that mean that our limited ability to keep them makes the lineage that much more important? Like when you're, like what I could see it going both directions too. And, maybe the whole, like, if we go towards an AZA type model, like does that, if there's regulation that kind of comes out of like AZA type,
I hope to God we don't.
No, I agree. I don't think that's going to be the best way, but who knows which way the once they start putting, regulations and requirements in place where that goes. And so I don't know, maybe talk on that a little.
Well, I came to think of something real quick, if I may. And this is going just back to what we were just talking about. I want to touch base on the AZA thing too, because I like that. But and I don't want to call Chucky out, but I have to for my own morbid curiosity. So, scrubs that you've produced that took you years to do you have the full lineage on all the parents?
I mean, they came straight from Bushmaster, so they came straight from Cam. So, I mean, no. The answer is, like...
Yes, but no.
Yeah, the answer is yes, but the answer is unless I went there and got them myself, no. You know what I mean? Like,
so
I don't...
So if anybody so much as tries to minutely insult what you've done or how you've done it or what those animals are, I'm going to fly to their home and kick them in the shins, because that means nothing on paper because of what they are and what you accomplished with them. And that's lineage right there. Now, granted, you may be setting the lineage, right? But there is no lineage that does not, and that shouldn't detract from them at all, one iota, in my opinion.
And I mean, you can kind of look at my Tracier and say, yep, those are fucking Halmahera scrub pythons, like without a doubt. And they were, trust me, they were wild caught imports. Like I had to do all the work. They were wild caught imports. So like, I think at that point you can say, yes, beyond pretty much a shadow of a doubt. There's no doubt and there's no questionability in my mind. So if you guys want to question it, if you don't want to believe it, go ahead. I mean, play you can never really ever know game.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. This is what some of these people do.
Yeah.
Now, and then the internet's like wildfire, man. All it takes is one spark.
Yeah.
And I don't want to ever see that happen to someone like yourself, and it should never happen. But people take it and they focus so much on the lineage and the backstory and the hype of where it came from and who made it. And there could be gems like yourself that get, I don't want to say overlooked because of that, but that shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't be like that.
It shouldn't. And I mean, I think, using me as the example, it might be tough to make that. That would be a tough sell. That would be an uphill sell.
Yeah, no,
if you wanted to say that. But
it was right there in front of you.
No. I got you. I'm with you. But I definitely. I mean, your point is like extremely well taken, because it doesn't take very much. And I think we've already given examples of how just a pinch of salt really can sour the meat real quick.
And I was dead serious. I will fly out and I will kick them in the shins.
I am totally going to hold you to that.
I think to kind of hit both sides, there's room in the hobby for both, sides of it, because there is a market on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was given advice early on that I took to a degree, but I didn't take completely. But it made sense to me. It was buy with your eyes, not what the piece of paper says. And I've taken that with there's some animals that I really like. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I could do this with it. I could do that with it. I'm like, hey, what's the background on this? I'm not sure, man. We got it in the shop, and I don't know. And I had a decision to make. It was, do I want to work with that animal and always say, hey, there's a big question mark here. I don't know. Or do I pass on it and go to an animal that visually might be subpar compared to that animal that I passed on, and I'm only working with it because of the line or what the lineage says. And that's just something that every individual has to, decide if that's what they want to do. Phil, you've been here. I've got pure stuff. I have crosses. I have hybrids. I have all of it, because I can't hone in on one one aspect of the hobby.
Yeah.
But there's, I'll say it again, there's room for all of it in the hobby. The whole point of this whole thing is just be honest about what you have and what you know. And if you don't know, say you don't know, and let the person who's interested make the decision if they want to, work with that animal or not. That's really what it comes down to. And then once the animal leaves, it might be frustrating if you, produce an animal that you told them isn't a pure jungle, and 3-4 years later they're like, oh, I got pure jungles, and they're using your your animal or whatever. But you can't, I can't control what you do, Chuck. You're not going to control what I do,
right?
That, like you said, human nature. Humans will be humans, but usually guys that do that aren't going to last as long as the guys that are going to be honest, and
or they get it, or they get a name, they get a reputation, it gets around. The whisper of this, or which is like both part of the good and part of the bad of the hobby, right? You get people talking shit on each other because they're jealous or whatever, and they shit on somebody, and then it gets around, and it's like totally fucking not true. But I think what you said, all of it was spot on, beautifully said, perfect. Like I think that is all of it super, super, super on point.
Yeah. And to take my fight hat off for a second, I totally agree with Billy. And by the way, I love his attention to detail with all of his animals in terms of feeding and breeding and the lineage of everything. And I've really tried to model a lot of his templates and his mantras with his room, and a lot of it I just can't. I don't have the mental space to do it, you know what I mean? And I commend him for that. And this fight is so hard because, like what Billy just said, there's avenues of both, and it all started because I was annoyed that we were even concerned about pairing future snakes that don't even exist yet. Yeah. Like, it bothered me that I was doing that. You know what I mean? And it still goes to, it matters to us in our circle, but in the grand scheme of things, it does play a factor, but it may not be necessary for the average Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, and that's 100% true as well. I think, in typical Fight Club fashion, both sides are 100% right here. So, but well stated and nuanced and difficult. And, I think people get so dogmatic, both directions about stuff, and people are so anti, like I cannot tell you how it fucking burns my cloaca when people are like, mutts are worthless and they're horrible, and they're like, because some of them are freaking awesome. Yeah, some of them are ugly, but there's some pure shit that is the ugliest shit on earth. And but people hold it on a pedestal because it has a lineage name or something about it's tied to a name, or it's a thing, and it's like, I just, I don't know.
Chuck, we need to remember beauty is in the cloaca of the beholder. Right.
Oh, that's a good one.
I want that.
That is a good one.
One man's ugly carpet could be another man's treasure. You never know.
That is fair.
So,
that needs to be on an AAR shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that reminds me of a quick story. When I found out about MP, I basically just lurked. There's no way I was getting on that. You guys were,
it was intense.
You guys are hell on wheels. But one of the few times I did ask a question was they were talking about I'll say the S word, the sibs from IJ Jag.
I remember that.
So talked about that, and everybody was like, "Oh, just cull the sibs." you know, they're worthless type of thing. So this was around the time that albinos were making a appearance here.
This was the Chris Proctor era. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that was just my next question. I was like, hey, what if I had an IJ Jag and I bred an albino to it? Am I still culling all the sibs, you know? And they're like, oh, no, absolutely not. Why would you do that? I'm like, so this animal's life is only worth its genetics. It's not, you know, it's at that point, it wasn't for the animals that, hey, we could find a home for it for the 98% that Phil keeps talking about. It's not worth the time. Throw them to the blackhead, throw them to the king snake. Hey, if it's het albino, hang on a second, you know.
And then if you take to the next step, hold on.
Peak call. So
if you take it to oh my gosh, I'm going to have to mute here.
Yeah, they love peak call.
Yeah, that was a great point, man.
Yeah,
great point.
Well, like I used to tie it into what we're actually talking about. You still have the lineage of what that animal is. If you have 88% IJ Jags, you know that those normals that are non-Jags are 88% IJs, 12% coastal. Just be honest about what they are, and you can find people that are going to want them. You know, that was just something that drove me crazy. But if it had something that, you know, was quote unquote valuable, that makes the life more valuable or whatever.
Billy,
but
do you remember the second iteration of that whole shit show when Sibs became magic? There was something magical about Sibs. I don't know what it is. I can't tell, but there's something magic going on.
That's
here.
where it started, right? That came first, wasn't it?
I think it was
the Jag Sibs.
They were just Sibs, and then they weren't worth anything. And then somebody basically was like, "No, there's something going on here. These things got something to them. These things are there's some magic in these." And that. You know, that once that wore off, it was just like, no, they're just regular coastals. That's all they are. They're just regular coastals, and everyone's like, all right, they're regular coastals. Yeah.
Except for unless they had like ocelot or something, right? Then there might be something. Yeah, I think valuing an animal based on its genetics is something that needs to go away. And I mean, granted, you know, people want rare, they want different, so they want some mutation or whatever. I don't know. We were looking at
people will always covet the thing, though, dude.
We were looking at
whether it's pure species or the morph or the lineage, they will always covet the thing. Yeah. So I don't know that it ever goes away.
And I think a lot of times it's, you know, kind of defies common sense because you get a morph and then people get excited about it just because it has a morph, but it doesn't look any better than the wild type. We were looking at Dustin's axanthic Mexican lyre snakes, were they? And
dude,
the wild types are like bright red. And why would you take out all the red? You know, they're like anateuristic Mexican lyre snakes. Why would you take out all the red of a red animal? It just, it's kind of strange.
I fell into the hype. I fell into the hype with subox. I was like, oh man, the xanthic ones or anery or whichever ones are black and gray, they're awesome. It's so cool. It's gray with black stripes. And then I went up getting like Davis orange ones. And I'm like, these are natural. Yeah. And then we saw when we were in West Texas that one that got squished by the semi truck, and then like, dude, this is natural. This is crazy. Like, forget the morphs.
Yeah. But I guess if you produced 500 that look, you know, the wild type, and then you hatch out something different, you might be excited about that. That might be something different that you're not used to. And
if that's what you're doing and you're producing great stuff and you hatch out something different, you're like, oh, this is neat. This is new. This is different. This is interesting. And then maybe, 5 years down the road, you don't feel the same way about that.
And taste can change and you can move projects on, and, that's kind of, I guess there is some fun to the whole morph game. I mean, I got sucked into it with the ball pythons, and I got to admit, it was fun, watching those babies hatch out and not knowing what you were going to get, and having a diversity of appearances in one clutch. It's fun, but it got old kind of fast, and so I don't have ball pythons anymore. I put them all out on breeding loan, so it's just one of those things. But I don't know, if somebody can have fun with them, then that's great. I can't say that I don't have any morphs, so yeah, it is what it is. Well, any
one less.
Yeah. Any concluding thoughts? Any big points to kind of sway people your way, or what do you think?
Go ahead, Phil.
I'll just say this: Lineage is an awesome thing if it's done right, but it also should not sway someone from enjoying the animals that they find awesome.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that. What do you got, Billy?
Just represent what you have honestly to the best of your ability, and let people decide what they want to do. I've had customers that didn't buy from me because I was straightforward about what the lineage was on the parents. Mm-hmm. And I've had other people that have cut me off when I start telling them what the lineage is. They're like, I really don't care, I just really like the snake. Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah, just be honest, and don't say what you have. That's really the point I want to get across here. Just be honest about what it is.
Yeah, because if you would have told the people what they wanted to hear, that they'd come up, I'm looking for this lineage. Oh, I've got it right here, and then they find out, no, this wasn't what he said it was. It didn't have the gene, or it wasn't het albino, or whatever. I had some Ruthven's king snakes that I got, and I bred them a couple of years. No albinos. They were supposed to be het albino, so I got taken. But guess what? They were cool snakes. I think I'd like the non-albinos better than I would the albinos these days. So, it just be honest in what you're doing. I like that. It's a good point.
I've probably talked myself out of more sales than I'd like to admit due to either Lineage or the infamous, hey, this is what a jag is and what can possibly happen and all that. But, I'm taking that point to heart where I want to be honest about what my animals are and what can happen and where they came from and all that. And, then let the person make that decision. Yep. That's the best you can do, and not be shady.
Yeah.
Yeah, well put.
Good.
Put.
Yeah, well said. All right. Well, appreciate you guys coming on. This is a fun topic.
Great topic.
Yeah. Thanks for proposing it and coming on so quick too. That was a lot of fun. You want to throw out your information? Tell people where they can find you.
Billy?
Phil's the celebrity. He can go first.
No.
Yeah, I was going to ask when you got more Venom Exchange Radio coming out. Listen to that Scorpion guy. I was like, man, maybe I want to keep scorpions. That was pretty. That was a cool show.
God, it was horrible, man.
I know.
It was so bad. Spent hours after that just scrolling
that website that he
bugs.
Threw out there.
Oh yeah, the Polish website.
Yeah.
Oh man. And then I started going through old Facebook photos. I'm like, no, I don't need this again.
Yeah.
Too many deli cups.
Yeah, you've got the best voice for podcasting, I swear. I enjoy all your podcasts.
Yeah,
you do a great job, man.
Yeah.
Make this guy blush.
I like his Christmas video. You guys saw the Christmas video?
The reading the carpet python book? Or was that the one?
Yeah, when he's in the robe and stuff,
Yeah.
the palm tree. Yeah.
We were supposed to do a better one this year. We all forgot. Oh, man. But yes, you can find me knobtails.ig on Instagram and at the Herpetoculture Network, Snakes and Stogies Monday night, and Venom Exchange Radio, wherever you can find podcasts. Nipper's very, very busy. I'm very, very busy, and we've been trying to do a lot of international guests. So
That's
pegging
hard.
down the time, it's so hard. But we've got 8 or 9 people lined up. We just got to record.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a few more weeks until we get another one out, but sooner than later. So
That's cool. Now, why aren't you going local? I mean, there's lots of cool venomous snakes in the U.S. and in Europe.
There is, and the problem is that Nipper and I wanted to find people that aren't necessarily in the limelight, who are doing really, really awesome work and kind of get them some exposure. And we really wanted to talk to people that are in areas that don't get all the fame. Everyone and their mother goes to Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's great. It's awesome. Costa Rica's a magical place, but I need to find the undergrad student in Morocco who's studying vipers that no one's ever heard of.
But I'm
You know,
going to
there's-
Costa
there's-
Rica in November, so I want to hear from that Costa Rica guy.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Get him on soon.
But yeah, we've got a lot of international people lined
Yeah.
up, and got some. We want to get some breeders in too. There's some guys in the UK that are really producing some awesome stuff.
Nice.
So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm really enjoying it though. Even though I don't keep venomous. I may never keep venomous in the future. I kept a couple rattlesnakes as a kid, but I just love listening to. It's cool stuff.
And dude, herping with you, man. No one finds more rattlesnakes than Dr.
No.
Julander. Flat out.
Chuck aced me on that price eye. So yeah,
Justin just almost steps on him. He's that's how he's almost tripping over them.
it's just
Yeah.
whether
I
they
just-
decide to
Awesome.
alert me or not.
Yeah, I just for a guy who shouldn't have good hearing happened to still have good hearing. That's the only reason I heard that price eye.
Yeah, right
That's
between
it.
Dustin's
Still,
feet.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Super envious you guys on this last trip, man. That was Did you do the trifecta?
No, that
The
was-
trifecta.
that was cool
It was
to see.
pretty. That was pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
that was
It
fun.
really was pretty awesome.
Yeah, man.
Right.
And like, there's people that have never done that in their entire life. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? You guys did it
Dustin
in a
was
weekend.
super so happy.
yeah, yeah.
Dude, when we found that, he was just
And then he
was
saw Gila.
buzzing and muzzing, mate. He was
Buzzing
buzzing
and
and muzzing. Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun.
super cool.
All right, Billy, how about you?
Cool. Yeah.
You can find me at Uwabami Reptiles on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, starting that back up.
Nice.
And uwabamireptiles.com. I got a website that has, I'm working on getting some lineage stuff up to kind of go with the episode. It's a slow process,
Yeah.
but doing what I can.
Nice. Yeah, just chip away, right? Got some spectacular carpets on there, man. I was actually scrolling through your Facebook page while we were talking, trying to find those jungles, and then you showed a picture. But I'm just drooling over all these coastals. They're fantastic. Yeah, I love that M pen, that really light one. That silver and white look. I
yeah,
love that
she's-
look. That's so cool.
Yeah, I ended up getting a male from that same clutch, secondhand, that he's keeping more of the red color as he's coming into age. So I'm excited to be able to breed them together and get both looks or see how they'll mix or whatever. So that's a project I'm really excited about.
Very cool.
Yeah. Mike Pinnell's a national treasure in my
He
opinion.
is. What a
Absolutely.
great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Definitely.
Cool. All right. Well,
Hey, Billy, you want to tell people about your show that you're doing in the near future?
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Going to
Yeah.
Tinley.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I forgot about
Then-
that. Going to Tinley in a few weeks.
Very cool. I was hoping to make it this year and have some books at the show, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So, oh well. Yeah.
Well, if it does, I'll be
Yeah.
there. So just saying, you can grab my copy.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping they're apparently they're in the port this week. So that I don't know how long after they arrive in the port we'll have them. Sometimes they sit there for a month, other times they're out in a week. So, but I'm planning on driving down and picking them up so I can get them out as quickly
Nice.
as possible. And it's gonna.
Billy and I
There
got
was
the
a,
teaser.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
copy at the Daytona auction,
right.
and our buddy Clay,
He got it.
he's actually a neighbor of mine.
Uh-huh.
He ended up getting it in the auction, and
Nice.
I didn't want to spend the whole night on. It's
Yeah.
not my book, but the little bit that I thumbed through, you guys really outdid
Oh,
yourselves.
thanks.
So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to get my hands on my own copy.
Yeah, I was just happy to have it done in hand. It's really cool to see. I mean, it's fun to, it's nice to see it digitally, but there's something about holding it in your hands and flipping through
Hell yeah.
pages.
Oh, and it's
Yeah.
heavy.
It's
Oh,
a
is it
big
heavy?
You could choke a horse with that book.
Home defense reptile book for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
it.
Or a great
Yeah,
doorstop,
absolutely.
whatever you want to use it
Oh
for.
man,
Oh,
much better than a doorstop.
It was-
break your foot on that thing.
Yeah.
It was really funny. As the night was winding down, everyone's been drinking, everyone's going back to their hotel room. We all kind of mosey on into the lobby, and there's still a group of 8 herpers huddled around this one book, the quote unquote biblical texts, with a flashlight, and they're like, "We got to read as much as we can before this guy walks away with it."
That's awesome. Yeah, that was really cool
That
to see you
happened.
guys around the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Absolutely
that's why
awesome.
you do this, is to get it into people's hands, and hopefully they see what you saw, agree with what you're putting out there. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be some detractors. I'm curious. Curious to hear it, but yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah.
Well, they can write their own book if they're so concerned about it.
There you go. Write a book.
A book.
A book.
All right. Well, of course, thanks to NPR for hosting it, to the Podfather and the Mackin-Wookie. You guys are awesome, and keep doing what you're doing. Check out all the NPR podcasts and their website and all that good stuff. And we will catch you again next week for another episode of Reptile Fight Club.
I'll send the wolf to kick you in the shin.
Fight Club.